having an attitude that God is going to work it out when your best plans look like it's not going to work out. A big piece of that is having an attitude that God's going to work it out. I got so many. I was up in Seattle and Bellevue, Washington, last week before last, I guess, and God really ministered to me. I was at a men's meeting. Well, not a men's meeting. It was a business meeting, but mostly men there. Early in the morning, had a speaker, and make a long story short, in fact, I may have him come and speak at our church. But a young guy, he was at USC at the time, maybe about 15 years ago or so. And he was a newspaper reporter, and then he decided he wanted to do a school newspaper reporter on the athletes of USC. And Pete Carroll, who's now the coach for the Seattle Seahawks, was the coach of the seat at the time. And so, make a long story short, he thought, well, the best way to do it is to try out for the team like everybody else. They had tryouts and see what it's like. You know, he had no expectation he would be picked. He just thought I'd try out and kind of get a feel of what you go through. Well, he got a call. Pete Carroll afterwards said, you got picked. You run pretty fast. You're pretty good. You're on the team. He was shocked. Then he started working out and got excited. And he thought he can really do well. He started doing pretty well. And then he got injured with I think his arm or shoulder, something like that. And he was out for the year, or most of the year, and except for the last couple games. And he was able to play the last couple of games, but he really felt, that God, he opened this door, and now what's going on, and it's kind of disappointed still. And so he was a believer. So he became like the reporter for the team, and he was around the team a lot. So he put Bibles in all the locker rooms or lockers for the football team. And he did it anonymously because he felt it. He knows these guys. He just did it that way. Well, he came in later, and all the Bibles are on the floor, trash. Just kind of like, he felt bad, and he felt like, wow, I must have did the wrong thing. I'm glad I put my name on it, but just like. So, there was a kicker and a punt. A guy that holds the ball, if ladies know about football, one guy holds the ball and a guy kicks it. Well, the punter was a guy he was the last guy, and he was second to the last guy coming out of the locker room, and another guy had come out. I'm kind of messing up a little bit. Okay, so he finished school, and then he got picked by Pete Carroll when he became the coach of the professional team, Seattle Seahawks. So he's now assistant today to Pete Carroll in Seattle. He thought he was a failure. And what happened after he put the Bibles out, one of the football players died and had a funeral. And he thought he didn't know God. So he felt bad, and he felt like he should have done more work, effort to help minister to his team members and so forth. Saw the Bibles on the floor. So he ran into a guy he hadn't seen in about 8 years who also was on the football team. He was the guy that held the ball. The place kicker that held the ball. And he said, how you doing? Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And I remember, so-and-so died. Yeah, but you know what happened? No, what happened? Well, we saw these Bibles, and I'm mad too. He was a backslid Christian. He wasn't serving God. He grew up in church, wasn't serving God. But God was not a part of him, just living like the devil. And he heard somebody says, what is this for? What am I to do with this? And the guy who was the kicker, who ended up dying later, had the Bible. And he says he was Catholic, but he never read the Bible before. So this backslid Christian, the guy who knows him really well, came back and explained to him, took 2 hours walking him through the Bible, explaining to him what the Bible is about and what it means and who it leads to, Jesus. Wow. So the guy kept leading, they were friends, so he kept reading the Bible, and about a week before he died, he had given his heart to Jesus. Hallelujah. Now, the guy who gave out the Bibles didn't know that until the guy told him 8 years later. And part of the moral of the story was that God was at work when I thought he wasn't at work. It really hit me. I said, God, how we pray for people and so forth, but God is at work. Because I don't see he's at work don't mean he's not at work.